let me tell you, after successfully ACO, just start thinking big. Big, what you hear that. Just imagine owning a part of the $1 billion company. And it's not very difficult to get there. If you have an Advantage Care plan, you have 5 to 10,000 patients in it, people will come and you will be part owner of it. So we want to create what he's asking for. We want to create a critical mass in wherever we live. We want to collect all our independent physicians in one place, whether they are in any other ACO or in any other IPA. They can't come together one place. They're big enough so we can invite Dr. Arthur Hanson to do what he has done already in Palm Beach ACO. So I want to take some time here to recognize our doctors ACO, successful doctors ACO team. So first one is David. Come on, stand up and everybody talk about him. He is the most hardworking person I've seen. Even the last minute you saw that, we still working the slides. So we really, really appreciate David. And David, why don't you introduce the rest of the team?
Yes. So
is that what you look like?
Wrap it out of the hat. So Don, please come up and be recognized, our Director of Operations.
Come on.
Rochelle, consultant, please come up and be recognized. Brian Edwards. Kendra Monmouth. Mantooth, excuse me.
We get Dr. Paul Haber.
Paul Haber, Medical Director. So this is your doctor's ACO team and everyone's cell phone numbers. So please reach out.
So tell us about if you attend doctor's ACO meeting and if you are doctor's ACO member, how we reward them for attending.
So the ACO is only what you put in. So this is the amount of money that you get for every meeting that you attend. So we hope that this is at least enough incentive for your time. And this is true both in person and online today. Look out for the announcement, because sometimes if it's in person, we may do away with the online, but this is available to you for every meeting. I wanted to share, if you have multiple people in the same room, you trust us with your money. So if 10 people just attest, we had 10 people in the room, that's not going to work out perfectly well. So you just got to make sure you take a picture of everybody in the room, and then we make sure we can compensate. But we're very detailed on your payments. You want us to be, but that's one of the rules with the payment if you're online.
If you call me, you get the money. If you call them, you want to see a picture.
Do you want to go over the 5%?
Sure. So we talk about 5%. Didn't we talk about everybody who's here got 5% of the money of the ACO money? So I got it. I know that. So how about Dr. Schreiber? Did you get the money?
Yes.
Okay. All right. How about Dr. Castillo? Awesome. How about Dr. Budd? Okay. Is anyone who's in Dr. ACO? How about Dr. Menon? Did you get the money? Awesome. Can we get on the line too? That people please send the text it or give some kind of thing that you got the money. So everybody almost fills a list. Everybody who was in doctor's ACO, and the reason we got it because we are risk ACO. If we don't do good, we lose book money. If we do good, we make money. So we did good, we got the money. That's why what I'm trying to tell you, that's why we're going to come to you. If you are in red, we come to you not because you are not doing good job. We're going to come to you, see what can you do together to make from red to green. All right? So we have some practices which are red, including mine. So we're going to work on it. And please listen to Rochelle and Brian and David, and they're going to tell you the way to make your practice in green. Green means you're making money. Red means you're losing money. So if you are green, too much green is good. If too much red, somebody has to be more green to cover the red. Because, they're right? So we basically, the other thing I want to say is we support our physician-owned business. You can take a seat. Let me take a seat, okay? Thank you very much. Let's clap. So I personally believe, and I want you to believe too, that one day the United States healthcare will be managed by physicians. We all are the best in it, but unfortunately we are not at the leadership role. Somebody else telling that. So we need to support our physician-owned business. So one of the physician-owned business is Dr. Casio. Casio, come on down, tell us about your hospice, how it started, how you're doing it.
Well,
Come on up here so people can hear you. So,
we started a small hospice company. We're physician-owned. Dr. Agro was part of it, but he bailed out. It's Dr. Mejias and myself now running it. And we're growing slowly, and we got like 10 counties that we cover. We got about 15, 20 patients, and we're doing fairly well. But if you got any patients that meet the criteria, we would love to have you guys. You know, we can give you the information. You can tell us, you know, you can send us a patient. Okay?
thank you. So I'm saying, I can guarantee you that if it is a physician-owned business, and if you don't get good service, not good service, great service, you can call me. I mean, he is awesome. He's the one who go to patients' home at midnight, take care of them, take care of me. He's awesome. So if you need some help in this area, please call Dr. Casio for hospice. The other business which is about to grow and about to start is Dr. Wingate started the program. Dr. Wingate, you want to come and tell us about a little bit about it? It's a physician-owned business, so support physician-owned business.
Yeah. We're going to hear a little bit more about it at the end of the program tonight, but about 2 or 3 years ago, we developed a product that can help patients with multiple chronic conditions manage all those medications and all that information. And we developed it, manufactured it, sold it. We sold over 40,000 units online. We've got some samples of it back so you can see it, but we decided about 1.5 years ago to split the company and create a new company to develop a electronic version of it. So we're going to develop an IoT version to be able to passively track patients and their medication adherence, which all of you know as physicians and providers, about half of diabetics and hypertensives don't take their medicines the way they're supposed to. So this product that we're developing will help take that adherence, that information, and make it into an objective data that create alerts, alarms, reports, rather than guessing, whether or not they're taking their medicine. If they're poorly controlled, is it due to not taking their medicine, or we are not on the right medication, or we need to make adjustments and stuff. So Bode is going to.
He worked hardest. He hardest working physician I know. Supporting 10 children. He's from one mother, and working in emergency room, and able to do all this extra work is incredible. Yeah. Incredible, Dr. Wingate.
So
that's
awesome. A little bit later then.
So he is trying to raise some money. So at the end of the program, please come to his table, and he's going to tell you about that. I have invested already $50K, and I think that $50K is going to be big money down the road. So if you have a money sitting in the IRA somewhere, which you're not going to use for next 5 years, think about joining Dr. Wingate. Very good. Thank you. So I think we need to all support business supported by physician. And then most physician, they can be bad, but they can be bad as you can see other business people, So please follow that. We basically inviting every physician, whether they are on CAP, they are in Piedmont, or we are any program, they are independent, they can join us, and we can create a critical mass. And we realize the ACO alone cannot create critical mass. So we open a program called, A1 Doctors Association, which Don will talk to you a little bit more about down the road. So think about that. So it is time has come for independent physician to good feel about yourself and do good work, recognized by CMS being a high quality, low cost physician, and in return, you get money. You can't beat that, right? So thank you for joining us. If any question have anything to do what Arthur Hanson said, we can, take about a couple of minutes. If anybody has any question what Arthur Hanson said. No. Okay. So go ahead and we're going to go to the next program. What we're going to talk about is report card. Report card is, David, you want to talk about that? Report
I
card?
got something in between.
You have something in between?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Next slide. So Palm Beach ACO in Florida is the #1 ACO in the country. You're right behind them, but they have 6 counties that their physicians operate in. And only one of the counties out of 6 has Medicare Advantage. Like Dr. Hanson said, you have to have a whole lot of physicians. So when you're ready, Dr. Agrawal thinks you're the best. I think you're the best, but you'll need another 50 or so PCPs. But when you're ready, that's an opportunity that's there for you. But guess what? You still have a very successful ACO. So we're going to talk about that now. So 2020 was a very successful year. It was your best year yet. The ACO is expected to get paid $6 million as a risk ACO. So you stepped up to the challenge. You took risk with Medicare and you succeeded. So those payments will go out around Halloween. 2021, remember, hospitals, specialists, they were significantly affected by COVID. There was a cardiology practice by us that closed for 90 days. So they're looking to recoup a lot of elective cases. Home health expenses very high. You got to watch out for hospice. Dr. Casillo may be able to help you out with that. But just look out for the rebound because Q1 looks like costs are higher. So we need to be vigilant in 2021 if you want to have the same results as your best year in 2020. Doctors ACO is doing awesome. So the 2019 contract is very favorable for independent physicians. Dr. Bansal, the magician, helped us out with this formula. If you just take conservative inflation, so Medicare adds inflation to your benchmark every year, they actually ask you to save less each year. But if you just take in conservative inflation and you allow costs to go up 1%, not a tremendous amount of effort, your payments are expected to go up 25% a year. The purpose of this slide is to reduce regret. So those of you in the room that maybe don't have the staff, maybe they're going to get to it later, I can assure you that some of you in the room are going to get extraordinary payments. So let that be you. The ACO payments are going up. We want to make sure the participant payments go up too, because your individual performance is the biggest indicator of your payment. This is the retention slide of how well you were able to retain your panel. Remember that if your panel turns over your assignment 25, 30%, your chances of shared savings are very low. Think about that. How fair is it to perform when you have a completely different set of patients? Look very closely at Brian's presentation and your dropped patients, because it looks like your panel has been dropping due to COVID, which is understandable. But you just need to be vigilant to make sure you're bringing those patients back in so that those patients aren't permanently dropped. We'll just pause on this slide. We try to be a little bit competitive. Athens is right there at the top with patient retention. Atlanta, come on, we got to help you out. But this is a little bit of competition between the doctors.
What they can do to retain patients.
So you have to work Care Tracker. So Care Tracker has all your drop patients. They have all your wellness visits. They have ER frequent flyers. You get paid $500 every single quarter that you work it. But if you can get through your entire list, you can ensure that your panel is maintained. And remember, you don't just work the patient once, because if you call, leave a message, there's no results for that. You got to make sure that you continue to work the Care Tracker and actually reach and schedule the patient. Doctors ACO is not doing well in home health. So during the pandemic, by market, home health agencies are recovering heavily. So you can see the costs compared to the national average. This is really hurting you. So Dr. Haver is going to do a special presentation on how we can manage home health, but frankly, you're probably going to have to decide, is a home health agency going to have a great 2021 or are you? Because unless you review the certifications and cross off codes, they're going to be receiving your shared savings, not you. These are the Athens practices for home health. Some are doing better than others. Atlanta. One of the doctors brought this to our attention. He's fixing it. Columbus. Very important that you understand their agencies. They are not created equal. The recertification rate for Encompass is 35%. National average is around 20%. Why is it that they need to recertify? Is their quality so poor that they can't discharge the patient? So you need to be holding your home health agencies accountable. If you follow Dr. Haver's direction and you choose the best home health agencies, you're going to get much better results. That's on that other slide.
Can you declare that before they sign the recertification for home health, they call Dr. Foley? He can help.
Yes, or call any of the numbers on the cell phone. If you send us to POC, we'll have a professional review it. And if you do it once a month, that'll be very helpful.
If Dr. Haver is busy, I'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. Atlanta. Amedisys is very high. Guardian is very high. Pay close attention to the cost per episode. So the more efficient home health agencies are able to manage the patient and get them stable in a much shorter time frame.
So can you compare the behavior of Palm Beach ACO physician regarding to home health compared to what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. So in Palm Beach ACO, the home health agencies all have this flurry to make sure that they're on the list because they know if they're not on the list, their referrals go down significantly. They call our team, so equivalent to the Don, and they say, hey, how are our numbers? We've been working really hard. And they know that the physicians pay close attention to this. But if you can reduce the cost from $4,000 to $2,000, that's literally $1,500 in your pocket. So if you're able to use the preferred agencies, control your referrals, the upside is tremendous.
So,
go ahead.
David, I want you to say that, last meeting, a lot of physicians got upset because they didn't make money. So this report card, can they tell us that they're going to make money or not going to make money?
Absolutely. So we pride ourselves that we always tell you where you stand. And today we had some meetings, tomorrow we have some meetings, but the first thing we're going to do is tell you how your performance is going to correlate to your money. So you got to pay close attention to your panel. You got to pay close attention to your PMPM because those are the primary measures that affect your money. We come out with these reports every single quarter, so it should never be a surprise. And we didn't do a great job of that in the past, but we learned from our mistakes and are going to do a much better job. But you can always tell your payment by these report cards. So please pay close attention and hold your consultants accountable. If you need data, ask Rochelle. If you need to know which of the preferred home health, ask Brian. Have them provide you the information to be successful. So Derek's going to present. He's able to present online. He's the expert that put all of these report cards together, and he's going to show you how to review them. And then remember, these are going to come out every single quarter, so you know exactly where you stand. Thank you very much.
Derek, come on.
Yes. Hi, can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? everybody know Derek. Derek is analytic. He's the one who help us with the blue sky, tell us what hole to fill. So you
Hello?
Got it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Can you see me?
No.
We see your cabinet. We need to see something background, but not your face.
Okay. Well, I wish you could see me, but my name is Derek Pauly. It's my pleasure and honor to speak tonight among these great physicians and leaders at Doctors ACO. We are a very fortunate organization. Doctors ACO has received shared savings payments in almost every year since inception, which is an incredible feat that takes hard work and dedication day in and day out. And it's also hard for me to comprehend that we started Doctors ACO in 2014, in the summer of 2014, and went live in 2015. And tonight, I will cover the practice report cards that are hot off the press, and think of these report cards as your practice's transcripts of excellence. A medical director many years ago called it the transcript of excellence, and it stuck with me. So I really like that term for the physicians. Next slide, please. So your practice report cards, these are very important. Compares the practice, your practice, to its historical numbers. That is 50% of your benchmark, as David Klodonis will say. And it also compares 50% to your peers, which are the county rates. Those are the per capita expenditures, the patient expenditures in the county where your patients reside. And so you're not only looking at improving your own numbers relative to yourself, you also want to exceed and be better than the practices in the county, in and outside of the ACO. And so the practice report cards also evaluate the important use of ACO tools such as Care Tracker and the SuperDoc app. And some of the key performance indicators in the report cards are your panel size. You could see that our retention rate is the lowest it's been since I've been at Doctors ACO, so we really want to improve that. Population health metrics, such as the percent of your panel that have received an annual wellness visit, the percent of your panel, the percent of your eligible discharges that have received a transitional care management visit, and your risk score, how sick your population is. And also we look at the medical loss ratio. What is the year-over-year patient expense comparison? So we look at your average cost in 2020, and we compare it to your average cost in 2021, and then we do a ratio there. And if your ratio is above 1, that means your practice got more expensive relative to last year. And if it's less than 1, then your practice has decreased per capita patient expense. We also like to look at hospital utilization. Part A expense, home health, which includes home health, nursing homes, hospitalizations. We take a look at that. So that would be readmissions, emergency department utilization, and hospitalization rates. And again, we look at county expenditures and patient expenditures. So next slide, please. So I'm going to evaluate 3 practice report cards today. And this is based upon your Q1 2021 assignments. That's the first column. And then we compare it to the weighted average. We compare it to the average of 2020 and then the average of 2019. And so when I look at this first report card, I see that the panel has dropped 4%. Those are the last 2 columns. The medical loss ratio has dropped 34%, meaning that it went from 1.06, which means a 6% increase in 2020, all the way to a 0.7, which means that the per capita patient expense is 70% of what it was last year. That's like 30% savings. Now, there's more calculations involved in that. You can't simply use the medical loss ratio to determine your savings, but it's a good indication of how am I doing year over year, managing the expense of my population. We look at the current risk score. That's the risk score for 2021 that is based on dates of service and diagnoses captured in 2020. That's how risk scores work. It's a perspective. Diagnoses captured this year are going to be next year's risk score. And so we look at a rolling 12-month risk score, which is the next metric. And that looks at, well, how are we doing at a rolling 12-month period? So we look at Q2 or April 1st of 2020 all the way to March 31st of 2021. And we look at all the HTCs captured there. And I can see that this risk score went down a little bit. So I would say that, you know, we want to take a look at some reports in Blue Sky, such as the dropping HCC report, to look at, well, how can we recapture some of these HCCs? Now, moving on to the next section, the population health, the percent of the panel with annual wellness visits is 17%. We want that number to be 20%, because 20% captured in a quarter, and there's 4 quarters in the year, that would get you at an 80% annual wellness visit completion rate, and that's where we want you. Right now, 17% is going to be below that, and so we really want to work on wellness visits, which will also increase assignment as well. Emergency department visits have an improvement of 16%. We want to be below 600 ED visits per 1,000 patients. It's the utilization rate. And so this practice has improved, and I would say that to continue the hard work on avoiding emergency department visits. Inpatient admissions looks good. The readmission rate. The 30-day all-cause readmission rate for this practice is 25%. That's a 27% increase. So if you can see the column over to the right, the 27% in pink, that means that there's an increase there. So we want to look at that. We really want, with like all of our practices, at a 12.5% readmission rate for their population. And part of what's contributing to that is that, you know, the TCM visits, about 53%, about half the patients at discharge get a TCM visit with their PCP. You know, we would like to see that at about 60% for the practices. That means that when the patient's discharged, they're contacted within 48 hours of the discharge for a medication reconciliation, which is a very important component of preventing readmissions, and then an office visit within 7 or 14 days. And so we want that above 60%. Right now it's at 53%. A great way to work on your TCMs are to look at your Super Doc app, which shows you all the admissions and discharges for the facilities. You know, we like to say that the TCM visit starts at the patient admission to the hospital, because that's a great time to contact the patient, you know, say that the doctor cares about you, knows you're admitted, and wants to see you either in the hospital or when you're discharged. They'd like, you know, the doctor would like to see you in the office as soon as possible upon your discharge to take care of you. The next section is the financial section. These are your per PMPM expenses for the first quarter compared to 2020 and 2019. And I can see a 30% reduction in expense here, which is great. And where did that reduction come from? That came from a 70% reduction in hospitalizations. And so you can see that all these numbers are tied together, because if I go back to the population health section and I see inpatient admissions per 1,000 drop 28%, hospital expense actually dropped 70%. So this doctor is doing something right to prevent unnecessary admissions and keep patients healthy and out of the hospital. And if you keep them out of the hospital, you're going to keep your expense low. There's a 71% reduction in nursing home expense. Home health has a 33% reduction. And Part B, which is all physician services, including labs and specialist expense, things like that, I see an increase here. So that's something maybe we want to look at and find out what exactly is going on. And Blue Sky is a great tool to look at the Part B analysis report to see, well, where is this expense going? And then we can figure that out and work to avoid that and try to find other ways to take care of the patients versus seeing specialists. The next section is the last metric in the financial section are the county expenditures. And this is a risk-adjusted number, which means that we take into the morbidity of your population relative to the rest of the county's morbidity. And I can see here that this doctor is well below the county expenditure rate. The county expenditure rate is $1,221 per member per month. That's the average expense for that risk class of a risk score of 1.31. And the doctor's PMPN expense is $794. So that's only, you know, that's maybe 60% of what the the county expenditure is. So that's a very, very good competitive physician within this region. And that's exactly what payers are looking for. And that's exactly where value-based healthcare comes in, is this doctor costs $794 when the rest of the county costs $1,200. Let's contract with this doctor. That's why I call this report the transcript of excellence, because it really elucidates that for you. And finally, at the bottom, you see Care Tracker and SuperDoc. This practice has 100% compliance with Care Tracker. Excellent. And they're actually above 100% because they've done such a great job for Care Tracker. And then I would say one area of improvement is with SuperDoc. There are 42% of the ADT, the admission, discharge, and transfer alerts that we send from the hospitals were acted upon within 3 business days, meaning that the doctor clicked on the alert and indicated that something was done with the patient. The patient was called, the patient was scheduled for a visit. There's about 4 or 5 different options to select there. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, go forward, please, one.
Let me say about, Derek, let me say about physician perspective report card. This report card, what do you think is A, B, C?
This is an A.
See, why did you say that? Why did you say, I want to know from them? So
I'm objective, Dr. Agarwal.
Yeah.
So I just like to look at the opportunities.
Somebody say why it is A? Why it is A? It is incredible work. You look at the bottom, it's Care Tracker, 100%. And SuperDoc, they at least got into 42%. They decreased the medical loss ratio from 1.12 to 0.7. Awesome. Awesome program. And then PMPM is 794 compared to 1,221. This is going to get more than $100,000 at the end of the year. This is awesome. So what can we do so Derek say, just go with this report card. Am I looking at it? Where I should worry about it? I should worry about risk score is going down. It should go up. Is that right? I should look into that. And what else I need to look into?
Look at the readmission rate. Readmission rates are a little high, so we want to work on some SuperDoc. So they're all correlated. So the readmission rate is 25%. The TCM visits are 53%. And the SuperDoc utilization is 42%. So if you bring SuperDoc up to 100%, that'll probably get the TCM visits up to 60, 70, 80%.
Yeah.
And then the readmission rate will go down to 12% because the best thing a patient can do at discharge is see their PCP.
So what to reduce the readmission rate, Dr. Paul Haber? You got to see that patient in the office within 2 to 7 days, or maybe within 14 days. If you see that patient in your office, your TCM goes up and readmission rate goes up, your check goes up. Is that right, Derek?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I want to say. Let's see the second one.
Real quick, before we go to the second one, this is just a quick recap. Excellent Care Tracker usage. We got to increase SuperDoc action. SuperDoc is the phone app. Work to grow your panel by increasing your annual wellness visit rate and continue to decrease emergency department utilization, reduce readmissions, and increase the TCM rate. Thank you. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so this is a report card example too. I look at the top and I start with the panel size. And I see that it's dropped 14%. Well, we want to increase the panel size every year. We want to increase it by 14%. So that's one area that I would say right off the bat to increase. The MLR looks good though. This doctor has decreased expense year over year. In 2020, it was 0.9, indicating a 7% saving, 10% savings rate. And then in Q1 21, it's a 0.75, indicating that expense increased to 25% relative to 2020. And so then I go down and I look at the risk score. The current risk score is a 1.59, but then look at the rolling 12-month risk score is a 1.39. And so these numbers are all interrelated, meaning that if the risk score drops by 20% and expense drops by 25%, it's really only a net savings of like 5%. because Medicare looks at that and says, these patients are healthier, their risk score drops, therefore they should cost less money. So we're going to reduce the benchmark for this practice because the risk score has dropped. So that's something that's very important to pay attention to is your risk score. It's not the only thing, but Medicare Advantage plans, Medicare value-based healthcare all use these risk scores. Now, I go to the next section, I look at population health. The percent of the panel with an annual wellness visit is 8%. 8 times 4 is 32%. 32% of the patients get an annual wellness visit each year. Well, that's probably a good indicator that the assignment dropped by 14%, because annual wellness visits are excellent ways to get patients assigned to the ACO. So immediately I would say, increase your annual wellness visits and use Care Tracker. Care Tracker is really going to be able to help you manage those wellness visits and keep track of which patients had them, which patients are scheduled. It's an excellent tool. The next metric I see, emergency room visits are 895 per thousand. That means that 90% of the patients, I know there are some frequent flyers, go to the emergency room, 895 out of 1,000. So very high emergency department utilization. I would probably look at the doctor's access, meaning that does a doctor take urgent visits? Is a doctor open on Saturdays or Fridays? Do the office close early? And so these are all great ways to reduce emergency department visits, which a lot of times are very expensive visits that can be handled by the primary care doctor. Now, this practice has very low admissions, 89 per thousand, well below the ACO threshold, 0 readmissions. However, there are 0 TCM visits. Oh, I look at the next metric, it's 100% post-discharge visit, meaning that when the patient is discharged from the hospital, 100% or nursing homes, 100% of the time they come in within 14 days for a visit with the physician. So that's an excellent metric, and that correlates to why the readmission rate is so low. All right. The next section is the financial section. So I see that the PMPM expense has dropped 25%. That's excellent. Hospital expense, nursing home expense, home health, and Part B have all dropped dramatically. And I see that the county expenditures as well are 1,549. Well, the PMPM is 988, and the county expenditure is 1,549. So if I was a insurance company, or if I was somebody looking at this report card, I'd say, wow, this doctor's very efficient spending, with healthcare dollars. They are 988 when the county average is 1,549. We have to sign this doctor up. This is value-based healthcare at its best. So that's the importance of the county expenditure component, is to see how you rank among your peers. So not only does this doctor rank well among his or her peers, this doctor also has been decreasing expense year over year. As I look at the PMPM expense, the 3 metrics there at the top of the financial section. So moving on, I look down and I see Care Tracker only has 1% of patients acted on. So we really want to get that to 100%. That's going to help with wellness visits and assignments. I realize this physician has a very small panel. This is a great way to grow the practice and to manage the population. The predicted completion rates 121%, and then the patients with actions under 3 business days is 50% for the phone app. So we'd like to see that higher too. Overall, this practice gets about a B-. So they have a lot of great financial improvements, but there's still a lot of emergency department visits, a risk score that's being reduced, and a very small panel. Next slide, please. Okay, so excellent hospitalization rate, excellent readmission rate, excellent post-discharge visit rate. Consider some TCM visits. That's going to be a higher Medicare payment for this physician. We need to increase Care Tracker and SuperDoc options, and must grow the panel, increase the wellness visit rate, and continue to work to decrease emergency department utilization. Okay, next slide. Okay, So I'm very sorry. For some reason, I have a camera, but it says the host has stopped it, so I'm not able to share. I'd love for you guys to see who's speaking to you, and so I've met many of you before. All right. So the final report card. This is the example number 3. This practice had a 13% reduction in the panel of 100. Now it's at 150. A very nice increase, or no, a big increase in the medical loss ratio of 1.45. That's a 46% increase in medical loss ratio. And the current risk score is a 1.5 and the rolling is a 1.55. So the risk score has gone up a little bit, but I wouldn't say significantly. The panel has 6% wellness visits. 6 times 4 is 24. Only less than a quarter of the patients get a wellness visit. That could be why assignment's going down. The emergency department visits per 1,000 is 913. Our goal is to be below 600. Now I see some improvements there, but this indicates to me that there is an access issue, or we have to look at some of those, why those patients are going to the emergency room. Blue Sky has an emergency room frequent flyer report that's very helpful and will identify those patients for you. I'm sure the physicians in the room are thinking of patients in their head as I'm speaking. Inpatient admissions are very high, up 50% year over year. Readmission rate isn't bad though, it's 11%. So that's actually a really good readmission rate. TCM visits and post-discharge visits are 62%. So it looks like every post-discharge visit is actually a TCM visit, and the readmission rate's low. So that the physicians have here at this practice have achieved the threshold of 60% TCM, and they have a 3% readmission rate, even though they have a high hospitalization rate. So this is a very good sign of post-discharge care, transitional care for this doctor's practice. The PMPM expense, wow, up 45% year over year. Hospitals up 87%. So you can see that inpatient admissions went up 53%, hospital expense went up 87%. What happens after a patient's discharged to the hospital? Well, they go to the nursing home. That's also up 57%. Home health is looking good, reducing by 12%. Part B has increased 5%, which isn't too bad. But now look at this last metric. The county expenditures are $1,372. This practice's PMPM expense is $1,492. That's $120 higher than the county. So if I was Medicare, if I was a value-based care organization, I'd say, wow, this doctor is less cost effective than his or her peers in the same area based upon this risk score. So that's an indication of some opportunities for improvement here with this practice. So it's definitely something that the practice consultants can work on, and helping the practice identify patients and practice patterns that can be changed. Care tracker, the next section, 100% patients acted on in care tracker. That's excellent. I'd like to see some better wellness visit numbers if they're using care tracker, and ED visits as well if they're using care tracker. Their completion rate predicted is well over 200%. And then patients, this practice is using SuperDoc app 100% of the time for actions that are acted upon under 3 business days. So this practice report card, I would give it, with all due respect, probably around an F, because there's a lot of opportunity here, but something spiraled out of control and we have to reel it in. And so this would be a high action, high opportunity practice to save. Yes, Dr. Echo.
So, there are a lot of things in your control and a lot of things not in your control. Patients get sick, that's not in your control. How you take care of them, that's your control. So this report card say 100% super doc. He's doing everything what you ask him to do, right, Derek? And then it's like 100% the care tracker. Not only that, the risk score is improved. All the panel size decreased because some of the patient got sick and died, and the county expenditure went up, but not big enough. So is it possible that the doctor got unlucky and got in a bad spot, got multiple sick people, and that's why the report card looked F? But he himself doing great job. He's doing
He doing your care tracker, he doing super tech. He may do a little bit better on AWV. He doing TCM 62%. And what else you want him to do to make it better?
Dr. Agrawal, one of the things I love about working with physicians, aside from them, taking care of people day in and day out, all day and on the weekends, is that doctors are high achievers. And this doctor's done everything, like you said, everything that we've asked the doctor to do. And so this is definitely fixable. And this is why we do these report cards early in the year, so that we can intervene and work with the practice to fix these. Definitely fixable. We have a lot of time left.
Great. Next,
David, you have something?
no, I just that was great, Derek.
Next slide, please.
These report cards are being delivered to your offices in the next couple of weeks. If there's anything in red here, please ask your consultant to share those details.
Let me ask, we want to apologize before you get the card. That there is nothing bad you did. These are the report card. What we need to do is fix it up and do the best you can do. So it works. I shall bring the red card and it's got a lot of red into it. Don't get upset. Just tell her what you're going to fix. We fix this first quarter. We have 2 more quarters left. We can fix it. So the game is not over. 2 quarters, we can do a lot. So you want to see that? This is really incredible report card. And please, let me tell you this. Time you spend on ACO work will be well rewarded. If you see 10 patients versus you see an hour on the ACO work, you compare that what you will get reward from the ACO work, you'll see it really well.
Derek, anything else to add?
No, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Awesome job. Derek and his team is what produces all of these reports. We're very lucky to have him. He worked hours and hours to prepare these report cards for you. I just wanted to recognize a few physicians. Is anyone here from Dr. Gibson's office? Can you please stand? #1 performer in 2019, please. Thank you for doing a great job for your patients. And it's neck and neck. It's very close to Dr. Gibson's office, but it might be Dr. Haver and Dr. Shiver, #1 for 2020. Can you please stand up and be recognized? Michelle.
Oh, man.
So to transition, you want the best personal trainer to be able to give you advice. So here is the 2020 top performer to share how their office manages home health. And they were #1 right out of the gate on Care Tracker. They're #1 in the app. So they were quick to adopt what the ACO recommended, and they're going to be rewarded financial. And we hope that this is a great example for you to do the same thing. Dr. Haver, can you please educate us on home health?
No, I just actually got done with my part. So I think I actually went a little too long. Well, first, Dr. Agrawal spoke a bunch, and then he played.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to be here.
Video with Dr.
And
Agrawal,
my staff is here.
I think. And then
They heard about the $100 at free dinner, and they're all into this. So,
quite a few things going for me. Now, Dr.
as most of y'all know, I've been out of it for about 10 months. I got sick and had a little radiation, got better, and then I got worse
I
again.
think it was one of the
And
MRA
then I've been
ones.
getting better for the last month or two, and
When
I
Arthur
think I'm
spoke
going to
of
be.
it.
I had a PET scan yesterday that looked real good. So, so anyway, but thank you. We'll see if this works. There we go. All right, home health care has changed a little bit, and I'm going to go over most of these things in the upper part of the slide. But the main thing that I want to emphasize right at the moment is the orders. You need to revise them, send them back, get the revised orders back, and then sign those. Don't scratch things out or change things and then sign it and send it in. You need to get the revised orders and send those back in. Because so that it gets done the way you would have done. I was told that that's the way we're supposed to do that. So, and for recertification, they need to be seen by you to do that. You need you need to see them to recertify. I have one question, David. Can that recertification visit be a televisit?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that might be a good way to do a lot of those. But it needs to be done. You need to try to get a setup so that you could do that. They're going to encourage, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and there probably is already a lot of pressure on you to sign these orders quickly. And they'll demand that you sign them quickly. And you don't fall for that. You sign them when they're ready for you to sign them. It's not a lot of work, 5 or 10 minutes probably, because you get paid for doing it. So keep track of those. Whoever takes those orders and faxes them back in needs to keep track of them, and then file the charges for that. Does everybody do that? All the offices do that? Nobody? Well, we do. I know we do. Yeah. Do that, because it's, it's not a big, huge chunk of money, but it's worth doing that. It's better than doing it for nothing. There we go. There we go. There's a new payment model for home health care. It's changed completely. It's no longer based on the volume. It's based on the diagnosis, the way a lot of hospitals are paid for admissions now. It's also changed from a 60-day recertification period to a 30-day period. And the therapy thresholds have been eliminated. It used to be they have to get 5 visits and they get this chunk of money, and they get 16 visits and they get that chunk of money, and all that's gone. It's based on the diagnosis. And that's why you need to be very careful about the diagnosis, because the more extraneous diagnosis or unnecessary diagnosis they're stuck in there, the more they're going to get paid, and that's not what we want. So we need a specific diagnosis. Don't fall for them demanding that you sign things. Key standards, homebound status, we'll talk about that in a minute. Medical necessity course, intermittent care, skilled nursing need, and oversight by you, the primary physician. It should be you. It could be by any physician. We'll get to that in a second too. Okay, what is homebound status? They have to meet one of these 2 criteria. The bottom one is they can't leave the home, so that's an obvious one. The top one is they need some kind of assistance to get around. This is a pretty easy criteria to meet. Even a cane or a walker, you need somebody to take them or help them come in. That meets that criteria. So that's a pretty easy one. They have to meet both of these criteria, but really, I was looking at them, they seem like the same things to me. They have to have a condition that you think that makes it difficult and very taxing for them to be able to come in to office visits. That doesn't mean they can't go to an office visit. It means that it's very difficult, and home health care would help them greatly that way. They still can go to their chemo, to their dialysis, and go to church and adult daycare to get their hair done, and but it needs to be really taxing for them to be able to do that, and on the frequency that they need to have the care done for such as home health care. Medical necessity, that's not changed. They have to meet the medical criteria. Oops, I think I skipped one. All right, when you're looking at those orders, check all the diagnosis codes carefully. Don't rely on the home health care agency to determine the number of visits necessary. See your patients prior to home health care start if possible, and at recertification. This is a wonderful time for TCM. TCM is perfect for this. If you see a patient that's had a mild stroke and it's mild, and because they're going to schedule home health care for them, They may not need that. They certainly may not need home physical therapy. And they may do better with physical therapy in a facility than in the home because the therapy is better there. It's also a lot cheaper. And so that the TCM visit, they pay you well, and Medicare pays you well for those because at that time you can eliminate some of these extraneous and unnecessary expensive things such as home health care. Some facilities order home health care on everyone regardless of need. That's for sure. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Let me ask you, Dr. Hayward, when you sign the home health, looks like you sign like the money coming from your pocket, right? From your pocket.
Yes, you should. Yeah, yeah. That's money straight out of your pocket. And if it's not necessary, you're just throwing money down the toilet. Well, I think you could do it at any point. There's no time limit. So if you have to send it back and get it corrected and back, or they're demanding that you do it immediately right now, you don't have to listen to that crap. You know, you take your time and assess it, review it, and there's no time scales on that. Good question. Any others? Right. I think there's probably a very good reason for that. And it probably has to do with people making money. And also it's just easy, you know, just a knee-jerk reaction. One other thing I was going to mention, I can't remember what it was. Oh, well, I'll think of it in a minute.
Just be mindful that it's somewhat disrespectful for the agency to assume the physician will always sign, because it's the physician's license that comes under scrutiny, and they're not the professional. And you know, when anybody investigates, it's always the physician that gets in trouble. So when they push you really hard, just remember that you're the one that's on the hook, and take all the time you need, because you're the one that's accountable.
Yeah, there was one other thing. The orders, don't sign orders that say they'll renew automatically, or that, especially the one that really annoys me is one that says that any doctor that's involved in this patient care can sign this. It needs to be you. You're the primary care doctor, and you know they find that, well, you're giving them a hard time about these diagnoses and things. Well, we'll just send it to the orthopedist. They'll sign anything without reading it. You know, so don't sign those kinds of orders. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayward. Appreciate it. Who's coming next? Okay, Brian, tell us what you achieved in Care Tracker.
I am Brian Edwards. I am the Atlanta area consultant. There it is. So this new quarter started earlier this month, and this is the Q1 data. We've had Care Tracker now for about a year. We've had some ups and downs, but this is the best way to hit 5 things that are the most important things for your Medicare patients: your ER frequent flyers, hospital discharge alerts, high cost, high risk patients, your annual wellness visits, and your drop patients. ER frequent flyers, we have patients who go to the emergency room. Sometimes they go for good reasons. Sometimes they go because they got a mosquito bite on their finger. We don't want those patients running up a tab at the emergency room. Hospital discharge alerts. You have real-time information when your patient's discharged from the hospital. Have somebody pick up the phone, call them, you do a TCM on them. You do a post-discharge visit on them. High cost, high risk patients, those are patients who really need our help. That's what we're here for, is to help patients. Patient care is those patients who have end-stage renal disease or cancer diagnosis, who've been in the hospital for a while and really need our help. Annual wellness visits, we do those once a year, right? We know when to do them because of Care Tracker. Drop patients. Drop patients aren't necessarily your bad patients. They could be, but it also could be your healthy patients that just haven't seen you at least once every 12 months. So if you have a you have a patient on there who, because of COVID, didn't want to come out to see you, do a telehealth visit on them. Have them come to your office now. So
Tell us about $500. You said you didn't.
yes. So there was a board meeting earlier this month, and the board determined that there will be a $500 incentive continuously if you meet all your actions in Care Tracker. $500 is a lot of money. We've had some clinics who've gotten that consistently. We have had some clinics who got $500. If they got $1,000, if they got the whole $1,500. There are new metrics though to earn that incentive. 100% of your Care Tracker panel acted upon. Okay. If you had earlier earned that $500, you did that. New metrics though. Predicted completion rates of 80% or greater on all categories. And I'll go over that in a second, as well as your ADT alert app usage greater than 70%. Your ADT alerts are your hospital discharge alerts. We can increase our TCMs and our post-discharge visits by doing our ADT alerts. You have to do 70% of them.
ADP alert means SuperDoc app.
SuperDoc app or in the Care Tracker app. If you have any questions about how to get to either of these, Rochelle and I are always available. So tracking your progress towards 100% of your Care Tracker panel is in the stats page. If you go to the drop-down box, you pick up your stats, you can see where you are. If you have 500 patients, you've acted on 400 of them, great. You've got 100 more, right? If you left a message for a patient, and instead of writing it down on a note, because we know if we leave a message for a patient, that note's going to get lost, right? It's going to be somewhere in the trash can. That patient's going to fall off. Leave a message in Care Tracker, it will pop back up and say, hey, I'm going to remind you to call this patient again in 2 weeks, or maybe call this patient again in 3 weeks. That's the 100% that you got to act on. Predicted completion rates of 80% or greater. What we noticed was that sometimes patients or clinics would work all their annual wellness visits. Well, that's great. But what about your high cost, high risk patients? What about your ED frequent flyers? What about your drop patients? You got to work all of those categories in order to get your $500. ADT alerts are, again, those hospital discharge alerts. But not only do you get hospital discharge alerts, you get home health, right? You get skilled nursing. If there was a hospital discharge alert, patient was in the hospital for 3 days, they got discharged, you can do a TCM. If they were in the emergency room and they had an observation, you can do a TCM. Currently, we have missed 841 TCMs for this year. I won't tell you how much money that is. Dr. Agrawal will probably run me out of here. We can do much better. Right now, we're at about 19% of our TCMs. I want to see us at 65%. The way to do it is to use the ADT alerts in Care Tracker or on the SuperDoc ACO app. One of our biggest clinics gets about 5 discharges a week. Smaller clinics might get 1 or 2 a week. You call, if they get a hospital discharge, pick up the phone, call that patient, get them in. We'll get to that. Yes, please. Not on home health, on an inpatient discharge. On an inpatient discharge or a observation that happened in the emergency room. Incident, sorry. Increase TCMs and post-discharge visits by using ADT alerts, the SuperDoc app or the Care Tracker app. In Care Tracker, on the upper left-hand corner is a little bell. That's your alert that shows that, hey, there's a patient that that's been discharged. It's about a half an hour delay from the time they are discharged to the time we get that alert. That's as close as real time as I can get. It's the #1 way to reduce readmissions. If we can reduce readmissions, we can reduce the cost of hospitals. Yes, please. It is, I believe it's just Athens Regional, but I can double check on that and get back to you. I know for Atlanta, we've got 3 of the major hospitals in Atlanta. I don't think we are in Ohio yet, but we're working on that. Currently, we had 95.1% of the clinics in the ACO earn $500. We can do higher. We can have 100%. You were doing the work already. You were doing the work when we were handing out paper ER frequent flyers, when we were handing out annual wellness visit list. This Care Tracker is just a way to combine all 5 of those things in electronic form. Missed opportunities. With Care Tracker, if you look here, current Medicare performance, you saw your Medicare patient 4 times a year, you would earn $42,000 worth of money. If you had a panel size of 134 patients. If you saw that patient another 3 times, you missed $41,000 worth of money. So seeing your patients more often. Medicare patients have medical needs. That's what we're here for. If you're able to see your patients more often, see them. It's preventative care, but it also helps keep them out of the hospital. Thank you.
Well, I see some familiar faces. I am the Athens consultant, and so most of the providers that are here tonight are from a lot of the clinics that I get to visit on the regular. Oops. So I have some exciting news. Following our most recent board meeting, Dr. Agarwal and the staff agreed that the $500 incentive was not necessarily enough for all of our clinics performing all the work that they were doing through Care Tracker. So now we are going to also introduce an extra incentive for the staff as well as the providers that are working the alerts in the app, which is on your phone, and then also through the computer. So for example, Michelle, I'm going to pick on you for a moment from Dr. Haver's clinic. If she works an action in the Care Tracker app or on the computer, you will be given $2 per action that you work. For example, if Dr. Schreiber or Dr. Haver does the action, they will be reimbursed $4. Again, this is per action. Then if a TCM appointment is scheduled and conducted, there will be additional incentives earned for each one of those. And so we will be able to track those and then provide that incentive to the clinics. More than likely it will be a quarterly payment. So, very quickly, this is going to add up. For example, Dr. Haver's clinic may have 5 discharges a month. And so if Michelle is able to act on each one of those, schedule that TCM, and then we can ensure that that TCM was actually conducted, that's extra money that's going back into our providers' pockets. I'm sorry? Yes, that's correct. Yes, the staff does pocket it as well as the providers. I'm sorry, I thought you said Rochelle. So that's why I was like, okay, sure. So most of you already know that this is the workflow for the Care Tracker app as well as on the desktop. So it's very simple. Every morning you just log in, you check to see if you have any discharges. If you did have any discharges, you're going to simply choose one of these options and then go about your day. For any of the staff or physicians that need to have the app downloaded onto their phone, you can ask myself or Brian, and we can quickly get that on your phone for you. Of course, transitioning into TCM, The app certainly helps capture these TCM appointments. And so with the app, it's giving the staff the ability to know not only when a patient is discharged from inpatient status, but also when the patient is admitted. And so, for example, if Dr. Agarwal notices that he has a patient that's just been admitted, he can follow that patient, maybe even help with the care plan for that patient in the hospital. Then come the discharge, they can make sure that that patient is contacted within 2 business days. And then, of course, we recommend seeing that patient within 7 days. These are just a few of your codes, of course, that correspond with the TCM appointments. Of course, again, if the patient is seen within 7 days, that is going to be a higher reimbursement to the clinic versus that 8 to 14 days. And, given the fact that whatever the patient was discharged for, more than likely you're going to be seeing that patient fairly soon anyways. Again, just kind of touching base on how much do these services pay. The TCM reimbursements are higher than your average office visit. And not only are they, more money back into our providers' pockets, but it is certainly beneficial for these patients that are being discharged. Really quickly too, I would like to introduce our support staff, Kendra. We're also in the process of adding a bilingual support staff representative that's going to be able to assist with some of our patients that are Spanish speaking. So I would like to quickly introduce Kendra. Many of you talked to her on the phone. She assists with scheduling a lot of your annual wellness visits in the clinic. So I will hand it over to you.
Hey everybody, I am Kendra Mantooth. I've been with the ACO since February. And I work all of your care tracker actions. So if you ever need anything, you're going to get this emailed. My cell phone's on there. So just call me if there's anything at all that I can do. There's probably about 12 different practices that I have. Yeah, so I'm in quite a few different practices.
And how many more you get?
I can do as many as they want me to help. So anybody that's not signed up with the support center, I'm here. So anything that you guys need, I can do it for you.
So what do you do?
I work all the care tracker actions. I try to make sure that I get all of the annual wellness visits scheduled. If I don't get in touch with them, of course, I mark it in care tracker. So it reminds me in a couple of weeks to retouch on those patients. Any questions from anybody?
So let me ask you, why only 12? Why not 47?
I'm not sure. I'm there. So if they want to call me at my cell or the direct clinic number, they can call me and I can get everybody signed up.
Let me tell you, this is the luxury from ACO.
To give you Kendra to take care of care tracker. So she does the work and you get $500. Can you believe that? You can't beat that. So which practice?
That's right.
Right?
Yes, that's correct.
You do the work.
Yes, that's
and
right.
You get the $500. So let's see. Who does not have a support center enroll? Dr. Butts? What is the fear? No, is there any fear like you gonna give them access to EMR? No, I mean that's a fear. That's reasonable. But what I'm trying to tell you, if you really, if you're not using if you're not using support center, what do you do? You're not using Safari, which is parked in your car, which will cost you nothing. So please, if anybody listening on the online, please call Kendra and enroll yourself in the support center.